So, with all that's going on with the Budweiser boycott and the loss of sales with Bud Light, we have to really wonder, what good is it? Is it really going to affect the change that we want or hope that it will? I came across this article that talked about that from USA Today. Bud Light sales, Dylan Mulvaney's beer ad, and whether boycotts actually work. Anheuser-Busch parent company AB InBev is optimistic about its future, despite calls for a Bud Light boycott after a marketing partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. CEO Michael Ducaris noted Thursday that while Bud Light volume declined in the U.S. over the first 3 weeks of April after the uproar, the dip represented just 1% of overall global volumes for the period. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at they're up in about the $142 billion bracket. That 1% is quite substantial. But he goes on to say, quote, with respect to the current situation and the impact on Bud Light sales, it is too early to have a full view. But in the context of our global business, we believe we have the experience, the resources, and the partners to manage this. He added that the company's full-year growth outlook for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization remains unchanged. And therein is the lie. What he's basically telling us is that, look, conservatives, they get upset by the things we do. They get all hot and bothered. They scream and shout. They start a boycott, and then they just fade away and nothing really changes. We get our way. We do what we want in spite of them. Nothing clarifies that more than the Nike sponsorship of Colin Kaepernick when he decided to take the knee before the national anthem. Conservatives got very peeved about that, boycotted Nike. That went on for a few weeks, and then it was gone. Within a year, Nike peaked their sales and actually won an Emmy for sponsoring Colin Kaepernick in a commercial. So basically, they don't see conservatives and their boycotts as a threat. Now, the Bud Light boycott has impacted Budweiser to the point to where I think it's clear that they're panicking. Budweiser has done an about face on Dylan Mulvaney. They've come out with their patriotic commercials. They're tripling their marketing expense to promote Budweiser. They're doing this, though, because they know that conservatives have never really done anything that has lasted. When you think about what is happening and the insanity of what's going on in our culture and our society today, you have to realize that the liberal ideology has been playing the long game. This is just not something that's new. This started back, I think, around the 1980s when Hollywood and liberal politicians started indoctrinating our youth with the slow message of sexual immorality and freedom to do what you want and to be what you want and to not have any social accountability or responsibility. And what happened is those children grew up and had children, and those ideologies that were implanted in them, they transferred down to their children, who then went to schools and such and watched movies that deepened the indoctrination and so forth over the last 4 decades or so, so that now we're in a place where it is just blatantly rampant, and that right in our faces. What should have happened was conservatives and the moral right should have addressed that when it was still in its early stages. The easiest way to put out a forest fire is to nix it when it's just starting. But what they did was they counted on the fact that as conservatives, we were going to react more maturely than they would. and also take the mindset that, look, if this doesn't affect me, then let everybody be what they want to be, do what they want to do. The problem with that is that it became very non-threatening to their conduct. They knew that they can do this and continue to do this, and we really weren't going to pull out the big guns against them, unlike they do whenever something happens that they don't like. They will riot in the streets. They will Molotov cocktail police cars. They will pillage stores. They will burn down buildings. They will graffiti pro-life clinics and things. They will block freeway traffic. They will scream at the top of their voices, and they will continually do those horrific things until they get their way. Now that's I would equate that to an average 2-year-old who throws a tantrum because he doesn't get a second cookie. But the point is they get their way because they count on the fact that as the moral right and as conservatives, we're just not going to fight back that way. We'll take the moral high ground. We will take the mature high ground, and we will just try to resist as adults should, just through the expression of logic and common sense. But unfortunately, although many people talk about it, very few really seem to take it to heart, in that you cannot speak common sense to somebody who just does not have the desire to hear it. I have to even question at this juncture with this Gen Z mentality now, if whether or not they're even capable of comprehending common sense. So with that said, we have to realize that this company doesn't expect us to remain faithful to finish this out. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means in just a second, but I want to go on and continue reading a little more of this article. The comments raise the question, just how effective are boycotts like the one Bud Light faces? While boycotts can definitely have an influence on a company's public image and reputation, there is less evidence that boycotts have a long-term effect on sales revenue, according to Braden King, a professor of management and organizations at Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management. And that is the point I've been trying to make, is that in our history of opposing this liberal, immoral culture that has been over these last 40 years been being indoctrinated into our lives, our children's lives especially, we as the moral right have given no evidence for these companies to actually think that they have to worry about us. Now, I don't mean in the context of being violent or attempting to fall into the craziness that the liberal progressive left have been demonstrating, but nevertheless, we've done nothing to make them really consider what we want and what we think, and that because we don't have finishing power. We don't finish the fight. The article goes on to say this: I would expect it to be very short term, he said. Eventually, people are going to get tired of a boycott and move on to the next thing. And that is the key to why we're in the mess we're in today, why we are in the craziness that is all around us. We have to understand that we cannot just allow Budweiser to apologize or to just struggle through this until we forget about it again. We have to show them that we are going to finish the fight. And the only way to do that is by putting Budweiser out of business. Now, I know that sounds like a big thing and probably impossible to do, but that doesn't mean that we cannot still make such an effective statement by our continuing to just disavow them completely and all their brands by the simplicity of just buying a different product. Because the power that we have as the moral majority, while we still have that now, although we're on the cusp of losing that, the power we have is in our wallets. Stop supporting them. If we all would just simply find a different product and buy that, Budweiser cannot survive. And they will not survive. But that can only happen if, as the moral right, we're willing to not just say, hey, we're going to boycott you, but for us to say, hey, we are done with you. No matter what you do, we're not coming back. Even if you turn around and start saying, hey, we renounce this, we don't want anything to do with this no more, it doesn't matter. We have to make the statement that if you do this, we will end you non-violently, non-degradingly, like the liberal progressive left does, but just for the matter of principle that what you're doing is wrong and we're not going to stand for it. All we have to do is get that message across to these companies. And let me tell you this, we are close to that with Budweiser. Budweiser's panicking. They put their executive president, Alyssa Heinerschein, on involuntary leave. They got rid of her boss, who is the marketing director. They replaced them. And now they're saying that the company had nothing to do with that. Well, if that's the case, if it was a third party company, then why did you put Alyssa Heinerschein on involuntary leave of absence? Why did you get rid of her boss? If you were not involved, then why are they paying the price for that? Budweiser just came out and said, hey, look, we just terminated that third party advertising company. Well, how is it that you as a major corporation give that much autonomy to a third-party marketing company to do whatever they want to do with your ads? The mere fact that you have gotten rid of your executive vice president and the president of your marketing company tells us clearly that they were the ones involved with this. We have the podcast that we've all seen with Alyssa Heinerschein flat out saying that this was the task that Budweiser gave me to do, to bring this inclusivity in, to get rid of the fratty American good old boy kind of marketing strategy and to become inclusive. And she said that was made clear to me that was my task. So the idea that Budweiser so blatantly will come out and say, hey, this is how stupid I think you conservatives are. It just astounds me that conservatives can't seem to see that. And especially to the point to where they go, hey, you think I'm that stupid? Well, let's see where stupidity lies. I don't need your company. I don't need your product because there are other products I can buy. Coors Light, Miller Lite, Yin Yang. I mean, there are other products I can buy that are probably better than yours, equal, probably better. So the reality is you need my dollars. You need me more than I need you. Yet, in spite of that, Budweiser says, I'm just counting on how stupid you are that you're going to realize that you won't realize, hey, I'm insulting your intelligence now by telling you that, hey, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was this third party. Look, we've got to stop letting these companies play us like idiots, treat us like idiots, and then actually prove to us that we are idiots by our returning to support them. Let me make this really clear. Budweiser has been panicking because their sales volumes have dropped up to 26%. I'm going to say this, and many people may think that I'm just being facetious or ignorant about this comment, but I want to make this really clear. We are in a moral culture war that we are on the cusp of losing. We have to realize that Hollywood has been instrumental in indoctrinating our children. We all complain about it. We all see it, but we do nothing about it. We still just run back to the next movie. And the reason for that is that so many people are all about me and my pleasure. What do I want? Do I want to give up movies? Do I want to give up my favorite beer? Do I want to give this up or that up? We've got to come out of this mindset of thinking, hey, let someone else fight the fight. I'll just keep buying what I like, because that's how we got to this place. We are in a society now that is about to be completely decimated by this immoral culture that is going to just ruin our lives. If you look at our country today, you can't help but see that civic unrest is just at an all-time level of craziness. Crime is flourishing, and good, honest, hardworking people are paying the price for that. The criminals are getting the benefits, not the good people. More and more politicians are being elected like AOC. And I don't care what argument you have, but the mere fact that a person like AOC can be elected into office, it's astounding to me. So here's the point. This boycott of Bud Light has been the most significant thing that we as conservatives have done. This is our opportunity to make the statement that we need to make, which is, you know what? We're done. Businesses, companies, we're done. If you go this route, we are simply going to abandon you and put you out of business. Think about it. Think about what happens if Budweiser fails. If because we just disavow them no matter what, they can apologize or whatever. No matter what, we say we're done with you and all your products, and Anheuser-Busch crashes. Well, all of a sudden, we now are the ones carrying the big sticks. We're not throwing Molotov cocktails. We're not devastating traffic or buildings or beating up people or threatening to kill people. We are simply telling these businesses, hey, you want to go that route, you are going to lose your business. And when it is all said and done, that's all they care about. They want to meet these equity standards that that the world is putting on them and their businesses. Well, go do that. But if you want to do that, sign your last paycheck, because you're going out of business. But here is the kick. If we let this boycott fade away, then the war's lost. Companies are now going to be empowered and emboldened to know, hey, look, we just do not have to worry about them. Because at their worst, the best that they can do to make it bad for us was nothing. We won. We're still around. So if we finish this at this critical time in our society, then the power will shift, and we will be able to look at other companies like Nike and say, oh, really? You want to go there? All right, you're done. Because as much as they want to adhere to these equity standards and things like that, I guarantee you these shareholders care more about the money that they're making through the stock market with the company than they are about whether or not they meet equity standards. So here's the summary of all this. We are at a cusp of losing the moral war, the moral culture war in our society. We are close to taking the power back with this Bud Light boycott. We need to end this. Otherwise, the power they hold will be cemented in once and for all. And nothing we will be able to do after this will change a thing. So sorry this is so long, but I hope you all think about that. And I hope that we can all just get together and really put an end to this, really make our statement clearly viable that to these companies that we're just not going to take it. If you go there, we are going to put you out of business. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll know whenever any new videos come out. And thanks so much for listening.